Hi, Anne. Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening. And today's topic is why we at Be Above Leadership don't teach the saboteur or what's happening with limiting beliefs in a very specific way.
I know this is kind of a fun topic because, certainly when we were in coaching school 20 years ago, people talked about the saboteur and we learned about the saboteur. Some people call it the gremlin or the negative voice and all of that. And, we have a very robust neuroscience-based coaching program. And as Ursula and I were talking about this, we realized we do not have a module on this. And we were both remembering that 20 years ago, when we were first learning coaching, this is a concept that felt really tough, and it feels really tough for a lot of new coaches. Is that your experience, Ursula?
Yeah, I think it's not only tough for coaches, but it's even tougher for the client. Because I remember having these limiting belief saboteur conversations, and with the experience I had and the somewhat limited insights, I felt like I could never make anything stick.
Well,
It would sort of go away, and then 3 calls later, the same saboteur would show up. And that was also true in my life. It was like, well, there it is again. Like, what's going on here?
And I'm thinking about like times that I've had a coach, usually it's a newer coach, say to me, well, that's just your saboteur. And I'd be like, okay.
Where is it now?
Put it in the drawer, send it on vacation. I mean, that's what I was taught 20 years ago. And so, it's really fascinating. And people will ask us, well, where do you deal with the saboteur in your program? And what is really true is we deal with it everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah.
Because here is the thing. And I know there are programs out there and there are people out there who are going to want to tell you that the saboteur is in a particular place in your brain. They may say that the saboteur is part of the limbic system and the amygdala, and that your wise sage or your inner leader is your prefrontal cortex up here, and that your saboteur is kind of lower down, and that's, going to send you into fight, flight, or freeze and all of that. And what we are here to tell you is that's really inaccurate, outdated neuroscience. It's not right. It does not come from a lower place in your brain. Emotions of any kind are a whole brain process. And so you can't just sort of cut off this, old part of your brain and, like you can't, and
it would require a neurosurgeon, and even
right,
then,
which you don't want to do,
idea.
You don't want to do. So you can't get rid of you can't, it's not helpful to think about it that way. And so we can't say, okay, now we're going to talk about this and that's your saboteur. It's not how we construct like who we are, if that makes sense. Ursula, what do you want to add to that?
I really love that, because when we look at brain and brain function, and we look upon it as a system, and we use the orchestra of the brain as a metaphor in our program, then you also realize if it's a system, it stands to reason that the saboteur that shows up in some form of language, or how it shows up, is in all these different pieces of the system. So there can't be then just one, there can be multiple that all sound and feel somewhat different.
Right. And so that is where the current thinking around neuroscience, that neuroscience has become less location driven.
Yes.
This part of the brain does that. And really what we're looking at more is, what are all the systems? There's a reward system and a salience system and a default mode system and a task system and an empathy system and an intuition system. It isn't just one place. So we would say, probably in our language, there are various saboteur systems, or maybe more accurately, systems in the brain that when they are out of balance, when they're out of tune, when they're, in the metaphor of the orchestra, when they're playing too loudly or perhaps not loudly enough, that they take us to a place where we are less effective.
Yeah. And I really love that that metaphor in terms of they get really loud, because I know that when I have a saboteur, gremlin, whatever you want to call it, show up out of the system, it has a noise level that somehow, somewhat drowns out, depending on the degree of how
Right.
loud it degrees to some degree, it then drowns out some of the choices that I can make, and having access to the systems in the brain that would actually be effective. There is
Right.
no.
What I think is really helpful about this is that anything that we push away, anything that we suppress, it's like trying to get my cats off the counter. The more I push, the more they jump back, right? The more you try to, especially internally, the more you try to like suppress something, the more built up it can be. And so the more we try to like suppress what we call a saboteur, it actually can push back stronger. Yeah. I have the worst thing I ever saw around saboteur came from a program my ex-husband did, where they had a guided meditation. He wanted me to listen to it with him, so I did. And they were having you identify your limiting belief and take a blowtorch to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not listening to this anymore, because there is a place where that voice is a part of me. Yes. And a very, very wise friend years ago once said to me, I don't believe there is any part of me that is not worthy of love. And so if we think about it more as a system or as a part of the orchestra that has gotten too loud, then we don't have to just blowtorch it or cut it out or suppress it or get rid of it. What we have to do is figure out how we integrate it into that orchestra.
Yeah, I think of it as a tune-up. How can we tune the system so that the saboteur voice gets quieter and there is more harmony, as you said, more balance, and certainly taking a blowtorch to it, or even in a milder form, sending it on vacation. It will come back. Vacations are not lifelong. So eventually,
it'll go on vacation and come back well rested and even stronger.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I got you now.
I'm ready now. I'm ready. I mean, to some degree, there is, the argument for that would be the argument on neuroplasticity, that if you don't continue to empower that neural network, if you really can not empower that neural network, that conversation in your head, the I'm not good enough, you can reroute it. But what we've figured, what we want to do is integrate this into our system, find a way that it becomes a part of us. And I think sometimes our saboteurs are things like fear and judgment and frustration and, feeling hopeless. And the way that I like to think about them is that they have useful information for me.
Yeah, I have the guilt saboteur.
Honestly,
I work too much, and my saboteur is, you work too much, and therefore you don't have enough time to work out or spend time with your grandkids. Then I spend time with the grandkids, or I work out, I play tennis, I play golf, and I go like, guilt, I haven't worked enough. I mean,
so then this is a question of integration. And one of the things I will say is that I don't really, people who absolutely have no guilt and no shame are dangerous. These emotions that we sort of think of as bad play a regulating role in us. And so I think of sort of all of the parts of me as like sitting on the bus, right? They're like all my, kids on the bus. Mm-hmm. I think guilt can be a useful bus person telling me certain things. I just don't like to let her drive.
Yeah, very good. I love that metaphor.
Right. There are certain parts of me that get to drive, and there are others who get to comment. And I think what ends up happening, and to me, this is how I think about how I integrate all of this, is like, no, we don't have to kick guilt off the bus. Because it is sometimes may say something like, Ursula, you haven't talked to your granddaughters in a while.
Yeah.
That's useful.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
useful note. Or, man, maybe that wasn't, if I'm going to say for me, not for you, like, ooh, that email was a little harsh. It's a regular, regulation.
Yes.
So you get to have a voice, but we need to integrate you into the orchestra so that your voice doesn't become the very loudest.
Yes.
I'm mixing my metaphors here, and you're driving my bus, and
Yes.
I'm only operating out of guilt.
Yeah, no, and this is a really good point, and I really love the bus metaphor. So I'm going to stay with that for a moment. I guess you could also have an orchestra bus, because that also happens. In any case, I think so. Back to coaching and what can be helpful. I think what you're pointing to, Anne, is there's not only going to be the guild saboteur on the bus, that I have a few others. So we make room on the bus for them. But there is also my empowered, loving participant on the bus. And so I think what is the start of this exploration is really the awareness. Who is on the bus and what they have to say?
Yeah. And I think, at Be Above, we are really a big stand for all expressions of humanity have a place, and they're all part of us. There's not these bad emotions and good emotions. They're just emotions.
Yes.
But it really does come down to, am I using this emotion for information, or is it driving my behavior? Yes. And if I can listen to what it is wanting me to hear, but have my wise, kind self drive the bus, then I'm really powerful. Then I'm an integrated being. And I'm so sorry, everybody, for mixing this metaphor like crazy, but I want to go back to the orchestra now for a minute. So an orchestra without drums is not as rich. An orchestra without a brass section is not as rich. There are even certain things. I think the 1812 overture, there's like a canon on it, but you don't want the drums all the time. You don't want the brass section all the time. There's a place for it. And I think in managing a saboteur, it's not get rid of it, see it as a reptilian brain, which is nonsense. It is a question of, how can this play in a way that enriches my whole experience and my whole presentation? Yes.
And I think when we approach it from that perspective, there is going to be a lot more stickiness, because now this part of the orchestra is in the orchestra. We haven't shut it out, where it's really knocking on the front door all the time and really trying to make itself heard. But it is in there, it's integrated, we're using that. And I think from that perspective, as you said, there's so much richness and power and information of who we are as human beings.
Absolutely. So I think for you, if you're listening to this and you are a coach, the question isn't sending the saboteur on vacation. The question is helping the person find all the parts of themselves, what they want to say, what their value is, and also strengthen their bus driver. Who gets to drive the bus so that it doesn't go off a cliff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and subscribe.
Thank you.